Hey there designers! Renee here with a tutorial for a bright spring picnic poster utilizing a flat design style. We'll use Illustrator to edit and apply patterns, draw original elements, play with pattern brushes, lay out vectors with copy, and much more. Follow along by downloading the freebie pack at designcuts.com. Open Illustrator and go to File New. In the New Document dialog box, enter a document name, then enter a width of 18 inches and a height of 24 inches. Click OK to create the document. In the Freebies folder, open the file named The Artifacts Forge Plaid. Select the plaid shape and press Command C to copy. Close the file, and in the main layout file, press Command V to paste. In the Swatches palette, double-click the plaid red layer to open the pattern editor. In the Pattern Options palette, click the checkbox for Size Tile to Art. Now press Command A to select all. Go to Object, Transform, Scale. Enter a uniform scale of 40% and press OK. At the top of the artboard, select Done to save the changes and return to the main layout. Drag the corner handles of the plaid shape to increase the size until it fills the artboard. Now we'll learn a super cool and useful trick to adjust the placement of the pattern on the artboard. You'll notice that no matter where you move your shape, the placement of the pattern will always be in the same place. Unfortunately, this has our plaid pattern a little off center, but we have an easy way to adjust it. With the main selection tool still selected, hold down the Grave accent key. Then click on the pattern and move it in whichever direction is needed. In this instance, I'm going to click and drag up and just a touch to the right until I have about the same amount of red section on each side. In the Layers palette, double-click the name of this layer, Layer 1, and change it to Background Pattern. Then lock the layer by clicking the empty box between the eye icon and the layer name. At the bottom of the Layers palette, click the Create New Layer icon. Double-click the layer name and rename it Dishes. Now select the Ellipse tool. Click once on the artboard and in the pop-up, enter a width and height of 18.75 inches, then press OK. In the Color palette, enter CMYK values of 55, 0, 15, 0. Position the circle at the bottom right side of the artboard so it just falls off the right. With the circle still selected, press Command C to copy it, then press Command F to paste in place. Hold Option and Shift and use the corner handle to reduce the size to about 14¼ inches in diameter. In the Color palette, change the fill color to 15,000 and change the stroke color to 40,015. Open the Stroke palette and increase the weight to 14 point. Now press Command C to copy the inner circle, then Command F to paste it in place. In the Color palette, Change the fill color to none and the stroke color to 55-0-15-0. Open the stroke palette and increase the weight to 30 point. Then next to Align Stroke, select the middle icon to align stroke to inside. Open the Transparency palette and reduce the opacity to 25%. This will act as our inner shadow of our plate. Now we'll add a decorative edge to the plate. In the Freebies folder, open the Callie Hagstrom file. Select the leafy brushed line toward the right side of the file and press Command-C to copy. Then close the file, and in the main layout, press Command-V to paste. Pasting the brushed line into the layout file will add the brush automatically to the brush's palette. So now that we've pasted it in and the brush has been added, we can delete the line. We'll use the brush from the brush's palette in just a couple of steps. With the main selection tool, select the outer teal circle and press Command-C to copy, then Command-F to paste in place. In the Color or Swatches palette, change the fill color to none. Hold Option and Shift and use the corner handle to reduce the size until it's about halfway between the outer and inner circles, about 16.5 inches in diameter. Open the Brushes palette and select the leafy brush we just added. In the Transparency palette, change the blend mode to multiply and the opacity to 20%. To finish out the plate, we'll add a couple of highlights along the edges. Since we already copied the larger teal circle earlier, we can just press Command-F to paste another copy in place. In the Color palette, change the fill color to none and the stroke color to 40-0-15-0. Hold Option and Shift and use the corner handle to reduce the size until it's about 18 inches in diameter. In the Stroke palette, increase the weight to 14 point. Under Profile, choose Width Profile 1. Now select the Pen tool. We'll use the Pen tool to add a point to each end of the areas we want to keep. When we're done, we'll have a highlight at the top left and one at the bottom right. So with the Pen tool, add 2 points. One on either side of where the finished highlight will be, so one at the top and one to the left side. And then we'll repeat this at the bottom right of the circle, but this time we'll put our points a little closer together so we have a smaller highlight. Now we'll delete all the points of the circle that we didn't add. Perfect circles in Illustrators are always made up of 4 points, one at the top, bottom, left, and right. So switch to the Direct Selection tool and select the 4 points that were part of the original shape. Then press Delete. The last thing we'll do to our plate is to add a shadow. Press Command-F again to paste the largest circle in place. In the Swatches palette, change the fill color to black. On your keyboard, hold Shift and press the down arrow about 3 times. Go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. In the Transparency palette, change the blend mode to multiply and reduce the opacity to 15%. Next up, we'll create some silverware using a combination of shapes and some minor tweaking with the Pen tool. To make things easier to see, let's work off to the side of the artboard for now. Select the Rounded Rectangle tool. Click once on the artboard. In the pop-up, enter a width of 1 inch and a height of 11 inches. For the corner radius, use 0.5 inches, then press OK. Now switch to the Rectangle tool. Click once on the artboard. In the pop-up, enter a width of 2.5 inches and a height of 5 inches, then press OK. Position the rectangle at the top of the rounded stick, overlapping slightly. Now select the rounded rectangle tool again. Click once on the artboard and enter a width of 0.25 inches and a height of 4 inches, then press OK. You want to switch to your main selection tool, and right now the color of the pieces don't really matter. I'm going to make them a different color just so you can more easily see what's happening. Hold Option and Shift, then click on the most recent rounded rectangle and drag it to the right to create a copy. After that, press Command D to duplicate the last action, creating a third small rounded rectangle. Hold Shift and select all 3 of the rounded rectangles, then press Command G to group them together. Now drag your pointer across all of the pieces we just created. Open the Align palette, and at the bottom right of the Align palette, under Align To, select Align to Selection. Under Align Objects, select Horizontal Align Center. Select the 3 grouped rounded rectangles, press Shift-Command-G to ungroup them. And we'll take this opportunity to make sure everything's fairly equidistant. With all 3 selected, go to Object, Compound Path, Make. This will have Illustrator treat the 3 objects like they're one single object. Hold Shift and also select the rectangle behind the 3 rounded rectangles, then open the Pathfinder palette and under Shape Mode, select Minus Front. Now you can see that this is starting to look like a fork. With the new shape still selected, switch to the Direct Selection tool. You'll see tiny circles with little plus signs inside each corner. Let's start with the one on the bottom left. Click once on it with your Direct Selection tool, then click and drag up until the corner radius is about 1.25 inches. Now repeat that on the right side. Now I'll use the same technique to round the edges at the end of each of the tines of the fork, starting on the left side and just working your way to the right. This time we only want a quarter radius of about 0.15 inches. Lastly, for the fork, we'll do a bit of tidying up. Use the Direct Selection tool to select the left side of the top left tine. We only want the top 2 left points to be selected. On your keyboard, press the right arrow key about 5 times to narrow the shape. Now we'll repeat on the far right tine. And this time you'll use your left arrow key on the keyboard. Now switch to the main selection tool. Select the stick section of the fork. Hold Option and Shift, then click and drag to the left to create a copy. Now select the Rectangle tool. Click once on the artboard and in the pop-up dialog, enter a width of 1.5 inches and a height of 8.25 inches. Press OK. Position so it overlaps the top of the rounded rectangle and is aligned with the right side. Now select the Direct Selection tool. Click on the top left point of the rectangle and drag it down and to the right just a little bit. Select the Pen tool. Hold Option, then click on the point we just moved and drag up and to the right to create a curve. Lastly, for the knife, let's add a little bit of a curve to the sharp edge at the bottom left of the blade area. Switch to the Direct Selection tool, click the tiny dot with the plus sign, then click on it and drag up to give a slight corner radius of about 0.15 inches. Switch to the main selection tool. Select both parts of the knife. In the Pathfinder palette under Shape Modes, select Unite. Now select both parts of the fork and repeat. Select both the fork and the knife. In the color palette, enter cmyk values of 15, 100, 90, 10. We'll position the knife and fork at the top of the artboard above the plate. We want them to look somewhat random, so they look like they were kind of casually tossed on the table next to the plate. Select the fork and go to Object, Transform, Rotate. In the dialog box, enter an angle of -60 and press OK. And then position it at the top of the artboard. Now select the knife. Again, go to Object, Transform, Rotate. This time, enter an angle of -75 and press OK. And then position that below the fork and a little more to the right. Hold Shift to select both the knife and fork, then press Command-C to copy, then Command-F to paste in place. Hold Shift again and press the down arrow key on your keyboard once. Select the eyedropper tool and click once on the shadow below the plate to sample its color and style. Now go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back to send the shadow behind the silverware. Hold Shift and also select the knife and fork along with the shadows. Go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. This will make sure everything's sitting below the plate. Our last piece for this layer will be a textured napkin. Select the Rectangle tool. Click once on the artboard and in the pop-up dialog box enter a width of 17 inches and a height of 7.5 inches, then press OK. Go to Object, Transform, Rotate. In the pop-up, enter an angle of 17.25 degrees and press OK. Switch to the main selection tool. Position the napkin at the bottom of the artboard so you can just see it peeking out near the bottom on the left and right of the plate. Go ahead and change the fill color to white, and press Command-C to copy, and then Command-F to paste in place. Press the down arrow on your keyboard once, then switch to the eyedropper tool and sample the shadow section below the plate or silverware. Go to Object, Arrange, Send Backward. Press Command-F again to paste another copy on top. In the Freebies folder, open the Artifacts Forge Fabric 2 file. Switch to the main selection tool, select the textured rectangle on the artboard and press Command-C to copy, close the file, and in the main layout, press Command-V to paste. Since that automatically adds the pattern to the swatches palette, you can now delete the texture. Select the top copy of the napkin and in the swatches palette, select the Fabric 2 Gray swatch. In the transparency palette, reduce the opacity to 40%. Use the main selection tool to drag across the right side of the napkin to select all 3 sections of it. Then go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. In the Layers palette, lock the Dishes layer. Create a new layer and name it Text. Select the Line Segment tool. Click once on the middle top of the plate, hold Shift, and draw a straight line across to the right, about 10 inches wide. Now select the Pen tool and click right in the middle of the line to add a point. Switch to the Direct Selection tool. Select the middle point, and at the top of the artboard next to Y, click after the current number and type -1.25 inches. That'll subtract 1.25 inches from the current Y value, which will move that point up. Now go back to the Pen tool. Hold Option, then click on the middle point. Continue to hold Option and then also hold Shift and drag to the right to create a curved point. Select the type on a Path tool. Click once on the far left of the path. Type Spring Picnic. Switch back to the main selection tool, then open the Character palette and change the font to Cabana King Pen Regular at 200 point. In the paragraph palette, select Align Center. In the color palette, change the fill color to a CMYK build of 75-0-70-0. At the bottom of the Swatches palette, click the Create a New Swatch icon and name the new swatch Spring Green. Now select the Regular Type tool. Click once in the middle under Spring Picnic and type In the Park. Switch to the Main Selection tool. Then in the Character palette, change the font to Bourbon and Buttermilk Regular at 110 point. In the Swatches palette, change the fill color to Spring Green. Next, go to Effect, Warp, Arc. Enter a horizontal bend of 15% and change the vertical distortion to -5%. Then press OK. We'll center this under Spring Picnic. Select the Type tool, click below In the Park, and type May 20th, 2017. Change back to the Main Selection tool, and in the Character palette, change the font to Punch Bowl Bold at 60 point, and increase the tracking, the space between the letters, to 20 point. And you want to align that basically with the right side of Picnic. In the color palette, change the fill to a CMYK build of 65-0-25-0. At the bottom of the Swatches palette, click the Create a New Swatch icon and name the new swatch Spring Teal. Select the Type tool again. Click under the date and type 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Switch to the Main Selection tool. In the Character palette, change the font to Cabana King Pen Regular at 100 point. This time set the tracking to 40, so we have a little more space between the numbers. Align that with the right side of the date. Go to Effect, Warp, Arc. Enter a horizontal bend of 8% on this one. Have both the horizontal and vertical distortion at 0, then press OK. Hover over one of the corner handles until you see the double-sided rotation arrow, then drag to rotate the text to the right very slightly, about -3 degrees. This looks really far apart, so I'm going to go ahead and delete the spaces on either side of the dash. In the Swatches palette, change the fill color to Spring Teal. In the Freebies folder, open the Callie Hagstrom file. Select the curly ornament and press Command-C to copy. Go back to the main layout file and press Command-V to paste. In the color palette, change the fill color to 18-100-12-0. At the bottom of the Swatches palette, click the Create a New Swatch icon and name the new swatch Spring Pink. Go to Object, Transform, Rotate. In the pop-up, enter a rotation of -20 degrees and press OK. Position on the left side of In the Park. Go to Object, Transform, Reflect. Select Vertical and press Copy, then drag the copy to the right side of Park. And I'm going to center things a little bit better. Back in the Callie Hegstrom file, select the 3 pieces of fruit. Copy, then paste them into the main layout file. Go to Object, Transform, Scale. Enter a uniform scale of 180%, then press OK. Position these somewhat randomly to the left of the date and time. Use the corner handles to adjust rotation and the main selection tool to move each object. Select the bitten wedge, and in the swatches palette, change the fill color to spring pink. Select the full wedge shape. In the color palette, change the cmyk build to 0, 35, 85, 0. At the bottom of the swatches palette, click the Create a New Swatch icon and name the new swatch Spring Orange. Now select the strawberry. Switch to the eyedropper tool and sample the red used on the silverware. Select the Type tool. Click once in the middle of the plate below the fruit and the time, and type Ketman Park. Switch to the main selection tool. Then in the character palette, change the font to Punchbowl Bold at 70 point with tracking set to 20. In the swatches palette, change the fill color to Spring Green. Now select the Type tool, click once beginning under the E in Ketman and type Free for All Ages. Switch to the main selection tool and in the character palette change the font to Bourbon and Buttermilk. I start with something a little bit bigger, but I'm going to end up at about 65 point because this is a little too big right now. In the swatches palette, make the fill color Spring Teal. Select the Type tool, click under Free for All Ages, and align with the left side of it, type Polite Pets Welcome. Switch to the main selection tool, and in the character palette, change the font to Punchbowl Bold at 30 point with tracking set to 20. And then we'll use Spring Teal for this one as well. Go ahead and make sure everything is centered correctly on your plate. Alright, now open the last of the freebie files. Select all 3 flowers and press Command-C to copy, then close the file. In the main layout file, press Command-V to paste. We'll start with the largest flower. Hold Shift and use the corner handle to rotate the flower left 45 degrees. Position it to the right of the age and pet information. Now select the Group Selection tool, which is the white arrow with a plus sign on it. Select only the green stem below the smaller flower puff and press Delete. Use the Main Selection tool to move the smaller flower puff to the top right of the larger flower stem. Position the smallest flower to the right of the other two. With the Group Selection tool, select any section of the coral color on the flowers. Go to Select Same Fill Color. In the Swatches palette, change the fill color to Spring Orange. Now repeat with the stem. Select any section of the green stem, then go to Select Same Fill Color. In the Swatches palette, change the fill color to Spring Green. Lastly, for a little variety in our flowers, select just the petal section of the smallest flower on the right and change the fill color of that one to Spring Teal. Now switch to the Main Selection tool. In the Callie Hagstrom file, select the brush dotted line. Press Command-C to copy, then paste it in the main layout file using Command-V. Now that it's been automatically added to the Brushes palette, we can press Delete and remove it from the artboard. In the Layers palette, unlock the Dishes layer by clicking the lock icon. Select the large teal outer circle of the plate and press Command-C to copy. Relock the layer, then click once on the text layer to make it active. Press Command-F to paste the circle in place. At the top of the artboard next to width, enter 11 inches, then click the link icon between width and height to maintain the aspect ratio. In the Swatches palette, change the fill color to None. Then in the Brushes palette, select the new brush, Pattern Brush 5. Now double-click the new brush in the Brushes palette to bring up the brush pattern options. Under Colorization, next to Method, select Tints, then press OK. In the warning that pops up, select Apply to Strokes. Then in the Swatches palette, change the stroke color to Spring Pink. We'll cut this down just like we did the highlights on the edge of the plate earlier. Select the Pen tool, click once on the dotted line a little below Spring and again a little above Kettmann. Use the Direct Selection tool to select the 3 points on the circle outside the area, the one at the top, the right side, and the bottom of the circle. And press Delete. Switch to the Main Selection tool, select the dotted line segment, and go to Object, Transform, Reflect. Select Vertical and press Copy. Drag the copy to the same relative position on the right side of the plate. In the Callie Hagstrom file, select the tiny flower, press Command-C to copy it, then you can go ahead and close this file. Place the flower into the main layout using Command-V. Pepper these around the design in random spots in varying colors and positions. Try not to go overboard. 5 or 6 should do it. For our last step, we're going to add a little bit of tilt to our copy. Press Command-A to select all, then go to Object, Transform, Rotate. In the pop-up dialog box, enter a rotation of -15 degrees and press OK. And we're done! We've created a trendy, flat design poster in Illustrator using a wide variety of tricks and techniques. Whether it's your outcome for this tutorial or something new, head over to our Facebook page and share it with us. Let us know what you think in the comments below and give us a thumbs up if you like the tutorial. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/designcuts to get more video tutorials and regular updates, or visit us at designcuts.com. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time.